Hello everybody, welcome, and please enjoy the next hour plus of comparisons between products of the SIMGOT brand. Let's see how it sounds compared between products within the brand. How is there a common house sound to be found? And let's compare products to things outside of the SIMGOT brand to see what SIMGOT is really doing different, better, or worse in certain ways than the competition. Let's become the best informed buyers we can. With that being said, please enjoy the next clip. We're going to look at the EA500 and EA1000 first. Feel free to scrub along the bar to different chapters. They are labeled for your convenience. In between the clips, I will comment. Enjoy.
Bloom out of my chest, still lost in your head. Fill up all my space, have all of me safe. I've wrapped you around my mind. All your words, they flow into mine. I've wrapped you around my mind. All your words, they flow into mine.
The EA500, bright, exciting, clear, but also a little bit of an edge if you listen in for it. And the EA1000, polished, a little bit more towards a balanced, neutral approach compared to the EA500. But it loses some of the thrill, doesn't it? Some of that fresh, in-your-face, forward sound that the EA500 kind of has. Let's keep listening. This time, male vocals, drums, some light guitars, other stuff. Let's see what we hear.
My life is brilliant. My life is brilliant. My love is pure. I saw an angel, of that I'm sure. She smiled at me on the subway. She was with another man, but I won't lose no sleep on that, 'cause I've got a plan. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. It's true. I saw your face in a crowded place, and I don't know what to do, 'cause I'll never be with you. Yes, she caught my eye as we walked on by. She could see from my face that I was fucking high, and I don't think that I'll see her again, but we shared a moment that will last till the end. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. It's true. I saw your face in a crowded place, and I don't know what to do.
They're both exciting. They both have this upper end energy that's bright and forward. And they both have a little bit of harshness, actually. A harshness that makes you wonder, will this work in my ears for a full playlist playback? Will this sit in my ears comfortably? I mean, not physically in your physical ear, but I mean, like, will my eardrums hurt after an hour of listening? Will the sound be too shrill over time? Even though it does sound so exciting at first. Well, let's compare it to something outside the SIMGOT brand. Let's look at the LETSHUOER S12 Pro and see exactly what it is that SIMGOT is doing that I am calling a house sound. What are we missing from somewhere else?
I don't think that I'll see her again, but we shared a moment that will last till the end. You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, it's true. I saw your face in a crowded place, and I don't know what to do, 'cause I'll never be with you. La, 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 You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, it's true. There must be an angel with a smile on her face when she thought up that I should be with you. But it's time to face the truth. I will never be with you.
All right, we go from the EA1000 to the S12 Pro, and the S12 Pro sounds like we've lost some excitement from the SIMGOT house sound. It sounds like almost funky when we switch at first. But then when we listen to the S12 Pro for long enough, when we switch back to the EA1000, that one suddenly sounds like we've lost some good qualities from our competitor. It sounds like when we switch from the S12 Pro to the EA1000, that the EA1000 loses the roundedness, the maturity, the polish, the balance, the smoothness of the LETSHUOER S12 Pro. It's a trade-off, to be sure. But here's the thing. Here's one way to look at it. The S12 Pro doesn't have really harsh peaks in any spot. Maybe a couple of a tad bit excited areas in the upper mids or treble, but nothing to overstay its welcome in your ears. Whereas the SIMGOT, despite its wonderfully unique and exciting and forward upper end timbre, comes with the downside of being a little bit harsh. And so my inclination, if I had to recommend buying and using your money for anything right now, I would say I'd recommend leaning toward purchasing an S12 Pro from LETSHUOER instead of the SIMGOT stuff we've heard so far. But let's see what SIMGOT offers. What if SIMGOT went back to the drawing board and said, hey, let's take the EA500, the EA1000, all that stuff that sounds very upper end heavy, and let's dial it back. Let's listen to the EA500 LM and see if they did a good enough job to hold our attention.
She
Okay, so don't mind me, I'm switching between computers in this mess. The EA500LM loses a little bit too much of what made the EA500, the original, bright and exciting and interesting. For me, the 500LM becomes anemic. It loses its emotions from the original. So I don't really enjoy it much at all. But you know what? Let's try something a little busier. Let's try some metal. Let's consider throwing in the EW200 if it feels right. Something we haven't listened to yet, or maybe it'll appear later. We'll see. And let's just see what happens when we have very busy and very bombastic energy. Does the SIMGOT stuff sound way too sibilant to even be remotely okay to listen to? Or does it handle itself just fine and it's just a matter of taste? Let's listen to some metal. All right, I had to stop it short. I'm also taking out the EW200 because listening to it, it's not so wildly different from the rest of the SIMGOT stuff that I kind of lost interest in covering it suddenly. Let's just say the SIMGOT EW200, though you didn't hear it just now, is a similar house sound as the rest of the SIMGOT stuff, but at a cheaper price. Maybe a little rougher in some spots, but it is my recommendation for people who want to consider trying the SIMGOT sound, but at a budget. For only like $20, you can get the EW200 and see if you would like the brand enough to consider paying for something more expensive like the EA500 at $80. Okay? Now that being said, the EA500 from SIMGOT and the EA1000 alike are both too much energy on a metal track, too much distraction, a little too harsh, a little overbearing for something so busy, okay? So instrument heavy and yelly and all that stuff. It's just too much for SIMGOT, I honestly feel. Whereas the S12 Pro, it did interestingly have a little bit of a peak in the treble somewhere that caught me off guard. It does sound like there is something fatiguing or distracting about the S12 Pro way up in the upper end in that treble region, but it wasn't so much across the response like the SIMGOT is, where I would say stay away from it for metal. I actually think that the S12 Pro is much more polished and well-rounded and mellowed out in most of its response for metal, that it will be enjoyable for you. I think it's much more appropriate for metal and busy stuff, okay? It's pro, if you will. Now, let's listen to the next track. Let's listen to a new product altogether in this video. Where is it on my wall? It's not even there right now. The HIDIZS MP145. It's one of my top recommendations recently in the last few months. And it has an excitement. It has that forward kind of impact and energy that we're looking for in this SIMGOT brand, but HIDIZS MP145's version of it is different. It has a little bit more weight and roundedness to it in the mids and the lower end, I feel like. So it would be an interesting comparison point to see where the SIMGOT taste stands against competitors. All right, let's listen to the HIDIZS MP145. Let's compare it to the EA500 and see which one shines brighter to you.
Now that the K's in place, where the C used to be, it seems that I'm seasoned to be in the season of the old me. I wouldn't trade my place. I got no reason to be weathered and withery.
Okay, hold up a minute. I love how the MP145 sounds. Even just for a brief moment, it shines. It shows us what a really aesthetically pleasing timbre could sound like without too many peaks. It's more polished than the EA500 is. I mean, maybe it should be for the price. It's like double the price, isn't it? But it's maybe worth it. I'd recommend it strongly, strongly. It might have a bit of a treble peak, though, somewhere, the MP145. Let's keep listening. Let's see if we notice any downsides, because right now, it sounds like a win. It sounds like a win.
Like in the season of the old me. Bust the lock off the front door. Once you're outside, you won't want to hide anymore. Light the light on the front porch. Once it's on, you never want to turn it off anymore. And now it's on. Now it's on.
Okay, there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs. The EA500 has a bigger clarity factor. It has that more of that like crystal clear, like there's nothing in your way to hear the music kind of affect, right? It's just more clear sounding, more bright. And then the SIMGOT, I'm sorry, the the MP145 does sound like it muffles it slightly, but it's doing it in such a polished way. It really does. The EA500, when it was on, had a that hi-hat was like a little too hi-hatty. It was a little too like you could hear it a little too harsh. And then when the MP145 came on, it was like professionally mellowed out. It was what it should be. It was like I can hear the hi-hat. It's clear enough as it should be, but not too much like it's being a caricature of itself, if that makes any sense. It doesn't, the hi-hat doesn't pierce through the mix in the MP145 the way that it does on the EA500. And I respect that. I like that a lot. All right, let's go back and let's actually bring in the EW200 this time. I kind of want to hear a little bit of what that EW200, that entry-level SIMGOT thing, does. Maybe it will strike a balance. Let's find out.
Now that the lake's in place, where the Dead Sea used to be, seems that
interesting. So the EW200, and I mistook the price. Sorry, before I said it was $20. It's actually $40. A little bit more of a consideration to invest in that first bite of SIMGOT, I guess. But interestingly, the EW200 is actually a little bit more tastefully done in terms of having peaks in the treble and upper end somewhere compared to the EA500. The EW200 dampens it down without becoming anemic and boring like the LM. It actually makes me like the EW200 and almost prefer it as a recommendation for people over the EA500 and EA500 LM. If you're just like a first-time SIMGOT enthusiast or somebody who wants to try it out. It gives you that exciting that SIMGOT sound without being harsh on certain places, because that EA500 is harsh. It does. It has that hi-hat stuff and the high treble. It's just too much. It really is. But the MP145, while mellow, is just such a beautifully round, so polished, so nice. Okay, let's bring in the Salnotes Zero. We're trying to get some let's really fill our reference catalog here of what we can compare these sounds to. Let's expand these these benchmark comparisons that our community has so hyped and popularized. So maybe a lot of people have a Salnotes Zero at home. This one might be especially useful to kind of gauge where exactly the SIMGOT house sound goes away from, where exactly it differs from what you might already have. So we'll bring in the Salnotes Zero, we'll listen to it against the MP145, against the EA500, we'll see what happens.
T シャツ壺に入れて寝たいし、野菜よりお肉が食べたい。肌荒れ隠して余計に荒れて、だってつって大泣きしたい。女を生き抜くために弱さを丸めて捨てたけど、残念ながらその弱さ私らしさでもありました。顔も髪も怠けてさ、チョコもコーヒーも両手にさ、明日もちょっと頑張ってみますか。やっとお風呂で流せ た気がする神様が与えた女の切り替えそれはまさに魔法みたいでそれはもう答えみたいで変わるわよ女は一瞬一瞬よく見ておいて見ておかないと女は化け物って言うでしょ私を幸せにできるのは世にも恐ろしいことにややこしい私です
All right, guys, I'm going to give you my concluding thoughts on the SIMGOT brand. I'm going to wrap up even models that didn't show up in these demos. I'm going to tell you what I think right now. Let's start from the bottom up a little bit, roughly speaking. The EW200. I think the EW200 at like $40, the cheapest level of SIMGOT right now, is, or one of the cheapest, is the most approachable, the easiest to kind of start exploring SIMGOT with, both financially and in terms of the sound quality. I don't think it fatigues as much as its brothers and sisters, so to speak. I think the EW200 is the more broad listening kind of capability. I don't think it's going to distract you or give you a sense of harshness like the EA500 does. Now, speaking of, the EA500, though, is clearly, to me, the more beautiful sound. It's the most beautiful, pinnacle, shining example of what SIMGOT can do compared to anything else it has in its lineup, even the more expensive things. But the EA500 also gets this way in some part, it seems, due to a cranking up of certain peaks in the upper end, particularly the treble, it seems. And the hi-hats, the raspiness, and the vocals, the EA500 carries a price to pay for that beauty, for that clarity. And I just don't know if I can recommend it in good conscience. I clearly can. I can identify, I can recognize what makes the EA500 sounds really engaging. It has that great upper mid and treble weight and energy, that great balance there, but it does have that raspiness, that harshness, the back of the male vocals, the hi-hats. They're just too much. And when you get to really busy tracks like metal and other things that like J-pop, K-pop, that might be a little high-end energy, it emphasizes it a bit too much. It's distracting. It's fatiguing. It's a bit much. As beautiful as it is, it's a bit much. Would I prefer it over the EW200? I mean, it's kind of a weird comparison, but the EW200 is less fatiguing, but also less beautiful. It's like such a trade-off. But I do think the EW200 is an easier approach into their house sound, into their brand. Working our way up, the EA1000. The EA1000 is this product that polishes, kind of mellows out the EA500 in a very appropriate direction, but it does miss a little bit of that je ne sais quoi, a little bit of that special quality of the EA500, just a tad. And so it's a weird trade-off. You like upgrade in terms of the listenability for long sessions and for busier stuff, but you lose on the hype. You lose on what makes the EA500 so special. So the EA1000, especially if you compare it to other brands like we did, I don't know if it's worth to go into. I would rather, for the price of an EA1000, the Fermat, I would suggest the MP145, the S12 Pro, and heck, I would even say across most of the SIMGOT lineup, I would prefer the 7Hz Salnotes Zero from Critical. It's really well made for only $23. It's really not going to fatigue you like this other stuff from SIMGOT. It's going to give you that bright neutral quality that is appealing. that SIMGOT is going for generally. It's a little bit different in its timbre, in its approach, its style, but it is generally checking off similar boxes as the SIMGOT lineup does without the cost of sibilance or distraction or fatigue or whatever. So the Salnotes Zero is a pretty solid buy. My top recommendation, I think, in this whole comparison for somebody who's going for that high-end energy in general, I think is the MP145. I think it's not so funkily different and taste-wise different as like the S12 Pro might go compared to SIMGOT, but it is the MP145 it has that roundedness, it has that polish, it has that maturity that we're looking for. The only other things I'd mention, just to finish this off before I leave you guys, is there's some stuff that didn't make a showing in this video from SIMGOT, namely the EM6L. I didn't have it in me to bring it up because to me it's more boring than the EA500 LM was. I think that the EM6L, though a lot of people seem to be liking it, is just boring for me. It doesn't engage me in any particular way, so I just didn't even bother in this video. My apologies for that. In any case, I'll see you for the next one whenever that comes. Please support me on Patreon if you like what I'm doing here. Leave a comment, join the Discord, and thank you for staying this whole time. Peace.